Happy Monday to you. It's actually a bank holiday, Jerry. And so I've noticed that the streets are kind of barren, but that's maybe a good thing because maybe everybody's tuned into the radio and listening to Take Two, and that's what we want today. So if you're enjoying today, please grab that cool drink or that cup of coffee and have this wonderful show with us on President's Day. The flags are out. Everything's a great day. This is the day the Lord has made, Jerry, and I am loving this week so far. How about you?
Well, it's early, but it's off to a good start.
That's right. California
time. So far,
time.
so good. Yeah, right. So far, so good. Great to be back with all of you, our listeners. Thank you so very, very much for your listenership. And Rich Jesse, our producer, is back from a much-needed and hopefully restful vacation. And Jeff Burson is doing the social media. Matt Gabensky is screening your calls at 833-288-EWTN. 833-288-EWTN. This is a conversation I think you're going to want to join in on today.
I think so as well. We're talking about walking the walk and talking the talk. Okay, if we are going to be Christian witnesses and be out there to evangelize, we've got to be our word. You know, we have to, when our yes means yes, our no means no, we've got to really walk the walk, talk the talk. Now, in today's culture, Jerry, it can be very difficult to do that. Because it's one of these where we live in this crazy world right now where we are focusing on our neighbors, getting that splinter out of our neighbor's eye instead of removing that plank from our own. Okay, and so it's very interesting. We're going to talk about this, that as Christians, we need to raise the bar. We need to set it a little bit higher so that we can really be very authentic, so that others would want to be Christian as well. Isn't that really the name of the game, Jerry? We want to get as many souls to heaven as possible, and including our own.
Yeah, that's right. The example that we give is so very, very important. What's the saying? You may be the only Bible someone ever reads, your life. And the saying attributed, I think, to St. Francis, other people say it wasn't really him that said it, but, preach the gospel at all times and, if necessary, use words. And so, yeah, the way we live our lives, but also, the words that we use as well, very, very important witness for Christ and the gospel.
I couldn't agree more. So we want to hear from you about walking the walk and talking the talk as Christians. So don't sit this out, okay? You can have that cool drink or that cup of coffee, but you can be waiting to get on the air. And all you got to do is call this number, 1-833-288-EWTN. That's 3986 is the last four digits, 3986. So here's the number again, 1-833-288-3986. Boy, that's like a tongue twister of a number, but I'm getting used to it.
Well, getting back to that Bible passage where it says, let your yes mean yes and your no mean no. Mm-hmm. And I believe it also, Jesus says after that, anything else is from the evil one. So right. What does that mean? What is your take on that passage? I mean, are we supposed to have a two-word vocabulary, yes and no? I don't think that's what it means, but it means that we are supposed to... we're supposed to mean what we say and say what we mean, and it's very, very simple. And not embellish or exaggerate or certainly not mislead people. So how do we do that? How do we speak a word of inspiration and encouragement and then live that out, follow it up by living that out? Because sometimes, Debbie, people Christians are under a lot of scrutiny, let's face it.
Yeah, they are.
So often, people will point fingers at us and say, "Well, you preach this, but you do this." So how do we make sure that our lives, our actions are in conformity with the words that we believe and the words that we impart to others?
It's important for us to be authentic, and it's very important for us to be transparent in a very good way. I mean, what you see is what you get. Jerry, I will say, for the most part, you and I are pretty much what you see is what you get. I mean, it's kind of interesting because we do this show together, and even when we're traveling, off the air, we're still the same. We still have the same conversations. Like nothing ever changes, which is kind of cool because that means that we are there. I think I think we tend to be very authentic, and that's a good thing. Now, some people may not like that. They may think, well, you know what? Maybe you're revealing too much. We don't want to, we don't want to see everything. Okay, maybe that's your choice. But as Christians, I think it's important that we are out there and really displaying who we really are behind closed doors, because if we want others to follow, we've really got to be living that life. And so if you walk the walk, talk the talk, Tell us how you do it. How do you practice? Because practice makes permanent. We talk about that all the time. Here's the number: 1-833-288-EWTN.
Maybe you've had an experience of a neighbor, a coworker, a loved one whose heart has been, inspired and moved in some way by simply you matter-of-factly living out your faith. You're not being showy about it or anything, but you're just trying to be authentic and caring and compassionate. I know, Debbie, it happens all the time. People are observing us, and they will come up to us, and they will say, can I talk to you? You seem to have something. You seem to be at peace. You seem to, have a certain joy about you, and tell me about that. So it's really how we live our lives, and the things that we say. We never know. We never, ever know the influence or impact it could be having on people around us. So I'd love to hear from anyone who's had that experience. Somebody comes up to you and they know that you're a Christian. And again, you're not doing it for show necessarily, or, to be like the Pharisees or what have you, but it has had an impact on somebody. Share that story, because that could be very inspiring to all of us.
Here's the number: 1-833-288-EWTN. That's the number to call. Remember, when you call up, you're going to speak to Matt Gabinski. He's going to put you on hold. You can relax and listen to the show, and we're just going to ease you right into the show at just the perfect time. So don't hesitate, please, if you're prompted by the Spirit. We want to hear from you. Remember, you drive the show. This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie and you on President's Day. It's a great day to be listening to Take Two. We'll be right back.
This is a Lenten Journey with Timothy Cardinal Dolan on EWTN Radio.
About this time of the year, back in 2013, I was one of those 116 cardinals that gathered in the Sistine Chapel for that conclave that led to the providential election of Pope Francis. And every hour we looked upon that magnificent painting of Michelangelo above the altar of Matthew 25, our Gospel reading for this Monday of the first week of Lent. Matthew 25, the Last Judgment. And as I walked up there, and I'm sure I speak for my other cardinals, each time as we put our ballot on the altar under that painting of the Last Judgment, I thought to myself, Dolan, that's what it's all about. It's all about how I fed others, how I cared for others, how I gave drink to others, how I clothed others, how I loved others. That's the final exam. That's what it's all about. As long as you did it to one of these, the least of my brothers and sisters, you did it to me, Jesus says.
A Lenten Journey with Timothy Cardinal Dolan is available on DVD through the EWTN Religious Catalog. This DVD includes all 47 segments for each day of Lent and Easter Sunday. To get your copy, log on to our website, EWTNReligiousCatalog.com, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or call 1-800-854-6316.
John Martinoni.
Okay, the serpent was Satan, essentially. He had taken the form of a serpent. Satan is culpable because he tempted them to evil. He is not responsible for their sin. They had free will. They could have said no. Satan is culpable because he tempted them to do something contrary to the will of God.
Open Line with John Martinoni. Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. Launching another week of broadcasts, and again, it is this holiday for many people. So if you happen to have the day off, well, we appreciate you making a little bit of time to tune in today. We have, it looks like, one or two open phone lines there. We're going to get to several calls here momentarily, talking about walking the walk, talking the talk, making the two match up. Being consistent with what we say and how we live our lives, and how you've found that maybe you find that challenging at times. Maybe if you're like me, Debbie, I'll tell you, I catch myself saying things or acting in a certain way, and I'll just be real honest with myself. Sometimes I'll say, Jerry, you know what? That just wasn't consistent with what you believe, and that's human. We're human. It's our human nature. But I'll point a finger at myself, Debbie. Sometimes I really catch myself, not doing this, if you will.
That's true. You do. You have done that before, but I will tell you, sometimes you're kind of hard on yourself. I think so anyway. Because
All right, well, other people who are hard on yourself, call and, and commiserate with me.
There you go. Here's the number, 1-833-288-EWTN. Okay, first up is Jennifer in Kansas City, Kansas. Hi, Jennifer. Thanks for being first up on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, thanks for inviting the call in. I just wanted to say that walking the walk, I think, has become the answer for me in struggling with how I deal with the children that I raised who have now appear to have left the faith in various ways. One now a proclaimed atheist, another actively engaged in a Protestant or a non-denominational thing at school, and the other a more self-defined sort of thing. So all three of them found different ways after they turned 20, and I found the advice to just pray and keep your mouth shut was really hard. And I've heard most of the time when anybody calls with this, that's kind of the advice. But I have found that the walk is much better if I am focused on building me and, getting myself to Mass and reading and praying. Then if it comes up or as I talk about it, it's not me preaching to them. It's me telling them about what's going on in my life. And it isn't then me preaching. It is better for me, and it's better for them, and it's better for our relationship. It lets me give to God what He is ultimately. It will be Him moving in their hearts, the grace that He, when He brings them back. It won't be because of something I said, but I wouldn't want something I did to be a cause for them to, or an example for them to point to as a reason why they shouldn't come back. So That's kind of I'm working on me. I'm going to, anyway, so that's sort of the reassuring thing to parents who have a hard time giving up preaching to their woe-begotten children.
Yeah. Jennifer, you are in a large club, believe me. Debbie and I, as we travel around, the number one prayer intention that we hear all the time is parents who have that burden for children who have stopped practicing the faith or left the church or what have you. Just a quick question. I presume you raised them Catholic, where they were all raised Catholic with the sacraments and so forth?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. They went to public school, and then they had CCD after school, and actually my husband taught some of the CCD classes and confirmation class. And I still I picked up the confirmation class that we don't have any kids in CCD now, or I know it's not called CCD anymore. Cradle Catholic, Vatican II. I didn't know that much about my Catholic faith until I turned 40 and got Catholic radio. My husband was a convert. He knew more about it than I did, because I was Cradle Catholic post Vatican II. I think we did. I know I didn't do a super fabulous job, but I also know that it will be the examples of Christ around them and not me preaching to them about hell or sin that is going to make a difference.
Yeah, well, the reason I asked Jennifer, and I presume that you had raised them Catholic, is the important thing is the seeds have been planted. Okay, you did the right thing. You said, I didn't do a perfect job. No parent does a perfect job, but as long as you plant the seeds, they're there, and the Holy Spirit will water them and bring them to fruition eventually. They're obviously at that age in life right now where they just want to be able to spread their wings, get some elbow room. They're achieving their own independence, charting out their own course in life. So this can be expected in a lot of cases. I think those seeds are there. But Debbie, also what I love about what Jennifer said is, see, kids, from the youngest age, from the time they're born, have their eyes on mom and dad. Mom and dad are the examples, and that never changes. They grow into adulthood, and children, I think, are always looking to their parents for that example. So Debbie, Jennifer is absolutely going to be doing the right thing by simply saying, you know what? It's not going to be my beating them over the head with words. It's going to be my matter-of-factly living out my faith in a devout way that's going to have that impact on them, I believe.
I agree. And Jennifer, when you were talking about your story, it reminded me of this wonderful priest that gave a homily one time, and he was addressing all of the folks in the pews who had children, all of us who raised our kids Catholic, and then they are, kind of wandered away from the faith, or, proclaimed to be something else or whatever. And we were all sitting there waiting on the edge of our pew, wondering what Father was going to say. And he said, I want to talk to all the parents out there whose children are no longer practicing. And he said, you guys are great parents. And there, you could have heard a pin drop. And I mean, people were starting to sob and everything, because I think as parents, I think one of the reasons why we maybe do preach to our kids is because we feel so bad, because we know what we have in our faith. And when we see our kids, go astray, it just makes us kind of a little bit crazy. And we just say, this is what's going to happen to you. We want to fix it. And this priest was wonderful. He says, you're all great parents. He says, you did your job. And just like Jerry said, you planted those seeds. He goes, now be the best Catholics you can possibly be and let God take over. And I remember when he said that, I felt this huge weight just get lifted off of me. I was like, whew, I'm done. I'm it's good. It's all good. So I don't know if that brings, it kind of, echoes what you're saying, Jennifer, or even, just some affirmation on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Amen. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's really hard to let go. It's really hard to let go and let God, they say, I think. But it wasn't through my parents' power that I came to the faith that I have now. Certainly my dad's example I can look to, but it was the foundation they gave me and my experiences with other people in the world. So the best thing that I can do is be a person who can be that experience with some other kid in the world, and that, like you said, plant the seeds. I am not going to be the person who gets up on stage and rallies the troops and converts hearts. I'm just going to need to show them what a real Catholic is, and not the caricature of a Catholic that you see in the media.
Right. Well, beautiful stuff, Jennifer. Thank you for your call, and we'll certainly join you in praying for your beautiful children who, again, those seeds have been planted in their hearts and minds. Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. And you're going to see your example and your prayers and those of your husband. You're going to see good fruit come from that, and you are going to be just rejoicing as God and the Holy Spirit continue to work in their lives, and also, of course, in your lives as you draw closer to the Lord and grow in holiness as well. So thank you, Jennifer, for that call. We appreciate that. Take two with Jerry and Debbie talking about walking the walk today. And that just makes me think, Debbie, I think we all can point to people in our lives. And I'd love to hear from anybody who would like to share, somebody that they actually learned true charity and virtue from simply by watching them. It wasn't so much somebody else's words, but has there been a person in your life, or maybe many people, who did walk the walk and backed up their words with the way they lived their lives, and that really inspired you and maybe brought you to a deeper faith or into the faith? So the number is 833-288-3986 to share that or anything else about this topic. 833-288-EWTN. That's
a really good question you just put out there, Jerry, because it made me think of my grandmother. My grandmother was totally, I'm gonna get all teary-eyed. She's she gave birth to 5 kids, and one became a priest and one became a nun, and and she always walked the walk and talked the talk, and everybody loved her, and the whole town loved her. That when she passed away, the whole town came out to honor her. And I think about that all the time, that she was so authentic. You just always knew where she would stand, especially about the faith, Jerry, especially about the faith. I always knew where my grandmother stood. And that's why I wanted to be like her, even though she was so much older than I was and from Italy. And you know what I'm trying to say? I was like, wow, she is really cool. And that's a great question, Jerry. I hope our listeners take you up on that and call in. Here's the number, 1-833-288-3986.
Well, yeah, before we get back to calls, and we do have several to get to here in just a moment, I want to share, and I've shared this before on the show, my late uncle. He was a priest, just like your uncle, Debbie. You had an uncle who was a priest. And my uncle, Father Harold Thiel, was a Redemptorist, and he went into the seminary at the age of 13. They had a high school seminary at the time. We were from Seattle, and he went to Oakland to be in the high school seminary. And then the oil was still wet on his hands, as they say, from his ordination, and off he went to Thailand, and he remained a missionary in Thailand for about 50 years. And he would come home, and he would visit us many times, often at Christmas and so forth. And I just remember he certainly was a man of words. There's no question about that. He would celebrate Mass for us and so forth. But it wasn't so much his words, Debbie. You knew, even at a young age, I just had this intuitive sense that he was just, living a heroic life and really laying his life down for the people, the refugees, the Hmong refugees from Laos and Cambodia and so forth. And I actually got to see it firsthand. I accompanied him back to Thailand one time and spent a week over there, and he was truly a hero. And so I know that all of us, we look at people who walk the walk, and Debbie, it has so much more weight, if I can put it that way. I'd love to hear if anyone else feels the same way. If the actions of someone are much more impactful than words. Words are important, but how much more important are actions, if at all? I'd love to hear from people and their thought on that.
Number to dial is 1-833-288-3986. And Vonda dialed that number in Port Angeles, Washington on iCatholic Radio app. Hi, Vonda. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
How are you, Vonda?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for broadcasting. Mm-hmm. I have several ladies in my parish, older ladies, that are very inspiring, and they're getting to be homebound. And I became a homebound minister to minister to these ladies, and they're very inspiring. They pray the rosary for their kids, and even though some of their kids don't go to Mass anymore. And they're very faithful, and they're lonely, because not very many kids visit these days. And it's just such a blessing to meet these ladies and see how faithful they are in their prayers and just to Jesus. Mm-hmm. And it's inspiring to me. And I got new neighbors recently, and I went over to visit them because they're new neighbors. I brought them cookies. And there were 5 or 6 girls who were educators, and they were put up in this house for their work. And I sat down just to chat with them over a cup of tea, and they started asking me about my life. And I started telling them how I wanted to be a Carmelite, and they didn't know what a Carmelite was, so I explained what a Carmelite was. And then I talked to them about my homebound ministry, and they started asking about my pro-life stance and contraception and everything. And so I got to share with them a CD on contraception from Lighthouse Catholic Media. And I'm just looking forward to we're going to have a neighborhood party, bonfire party in the spring.
Sounds
and
cool.
I hope to talk more to them about my faith.
Yeah. Well, if we were there, we would join that. We love that. We love community parties, Jerry and I. We just we tried to do that on the retreat, Vonda, but we got rained out. But Vonda,
yeah? We just got snow here.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Well, Vonda, real quickly, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being in ministry to the homebound. So many times those that are in their homes, they feel so disconnected from the greater community. And you are being that beautiful connector, that bridge, that person that keeps everybody part of the body of Christ. I love that you're doing that ministry. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I think it's just a wonderful thing. And I'm sure, as I can tell by as you're speaking, you have such beautiful gratitude in your voice. It sounds like you've learned so much from all these prayer warriors and just wonderful people that are faith, and it's inspiring you, and so it's a win-win all the way around. What do you think, Jer?
Absolutely, Vonda. I join Debbie in thanking you for the service that you do, and there is no doubt that it is having a tremendous impact. The words that you share, but also just your example, Vonda. Thank you for that. And I'm from actually up around your area there, from Seattle originally, and I got a text from my youngest brother, Jim, who lives, I think it's in Montesano. Anyway, you probably know where that is, Vonda. Anyway, he showed me a picture of the snow that you had up there. So he says, we awoke to this in the morning, so I'll bet it's very, very beautiful. Thanks, Vonda, for joining us. Myra is next, and then Frank in Ottawa, Canada. And we got Michelle and a couple of others that Matt's going to get to and screen. So lines are pretty full, but the one that Vonda was on, you can grab a hold of at 833-288-3986. Talking about walking the walk on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Post your intentions on the prayer wall on Jerry and Debbie's website. To get there, just click on the bright yellow J&D logo at take2show.com. Jerry and Debbie personally reply to every prayer intention that's posted. Others will also offer you their prayer support. When there's something important you want prayers for, post it on the prayer wall on Jerry and Debbie's site. Visit take2show.com, click on the J&D logo today.
This is Al Kresta, host of Kresta in the Afternoon.
This is Gloria Purvis, co-host of Morning Glory.
This is Bishop Robert Barron of the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. Have a blessed Lent from all of us at EWTN Radio.
I don't think men have ever been as lonely as they are today, and it's easy to get depressed about it. We're the kind of guys I hung out with in college. Everybody's too busy. No one makes time for one another. Workplaces and neighborhoods, they're just too transient to form meaningful connections. You know what? Maybe that's all true. But if you really want to know what the problem is, look in the mirror. Instead of whining, you need to become the change you want to see in the world by becoming the kind of friend you wish you had. Think of the qualities of your ideal friend. Seriously, think of a list of what that person would look like. Now, you ready for this? Go and be that friend to somebody. But to who? This person has this flaw, that person has that flaw. Stop that. Be the friend you wish you had, and I promise you, you'll form the friendships you've been missing. The world is a lonely place. You have the power to fix that. This is Chris Stefanik on EWTN Radio. For more of our men's program, visit reallifecatholic.com.
Being part of EWTN Media Missionaries is a perfect way to help us fulfill our calling from Christ to make disciples of all nations. Visit EWTNmissionaries.com and join us in sharing the eternal word with the world.
Talking about walking the walk and talking the talk here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. So we're going to go right back to the phones, and Myra has been waiting so patiently in Kentucky on Amazon Echo. Hi, Myra. Welcome to Take Two.
Hello.
Hi, you're on.
Well, thank you. It's so good to talk to you guys. I'm first and foremost so thankful for your mission here at Take Two. I listen as much as I can through the week, and just everyone at EWTN. It's such an edification. I've learned more about my faith in the last year than I've known, and I've been a convert for 20 years. But
thank you.
I wanted to. You're welcome. Thank you. I wanted to just share that I had been walking with a dear friend of mine through the RCIA program. And then quite suddenly they decided they were moving and weren't going to talk to me anymore. And it took me 3 weeks to figure out what was going on. It was something that I can just, inexplainable. It was like, really? And, it hurt because I'd really been praying and working toward living closer and walking the walk more and doing more over the last few years, like I said, in my faith life. And it was a real blow. But, it also, I want to say, when we're evangelizing and when we're trying to walk the walk and talk the talk, and we don't understand why people don't follow or fall away, we don't know what we've left them with, and we don't know when that'll bear fruit.
Right.
And we
Yeah.
can't blame ourselves for our children or our friends or any of our family. We just have to continue to live as best we know how to show our faith and then pray for them and for ourselves.
Myra, do you know, did this individual continue along the path of RCIA? Is he or she still approaching the sacraments this coming Easter Vigil, or do you know?
I have absolutely no idea.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know, Debbie. I mean, you've had more experience with this than I have. The only thing that comes to my mind is, going and becoming, as you know, Myra, you said you're a convert to the faith. So we know that this can be a very exciting journey, but it can also be at times a little bit of an intimidating journey, sometimes a little fearful. And a person might experience something or learn something or hear something that is no fault of anybody's, Debbie, but they just kind of get a little bit nervous about something or spooked or something. I'm not saying that this is what happened in this situation, but it sounds like Myra was doing a pretty good job, and all of a sudden this RCA sponsorship relationship ended. So it's unfortunate.
I actually do have some experience in this, Myra, because this has happened to me a few times, actually, with folks that I have helped get kind of like dip their toe into the Catholic world. And then all of a sudden, you go to call them and they're like not answering the phone and you're thinking, did I do something? And so, Myra, I get it. But, I'm always reminded of that. Well, I guess it's a poem, but I've always heard it as a statement, but I think it's a poem. People come into your life for a reason, for a season, and for a lifetime. And I think sometimes when we journey with somebody and they're coming into the faith, or you share the faith with them in some degree, then you get super bonded to that person. And if that person walks away, there's like this real void, because we only know another person as much as they know God. Okay. And once we start to develop that foundation of where we are at with God, we start to bond. And when that break happens, it can really hurt. What I've done, Myra, I don't know if you tried this or anything, is I pray to their guardian angel that they would continue on their faith journey wherever they're at. And I ask my guardian angel to talk to their guardian angel and just to help them along. And then every once in a great while, I will drop some of these friends a text message just saying, hey, I'm just thinking of you. I miss the fun we had. I mean, I've got one girlfriend that we crack up every time because I would ask her for the same recipe like 100 times to make this one dish that I always loved. And every so often when I make the dish, I'll text her and I'll say, hey, I'm making that favorite dish and I think of you, and I'm just laughing. And, and she'll text back, but it's not there anymore, the relationship. I really do believe, though, that we are meant to not get stuck in tied in. Sometimes we are meant to keep moving, just like the disciples did. Go out and make disciples of all nations. Go out there. We're on a journey, and this is part of the journey. But it sounds like you planted some great seeds, and let's just hope that person or folks that you have come in contact with and helped introduce to the faith, let's hope they continue. What do you think, Myra?
That's great, and I've heard you, Debbie, before talk about praying to the guardian angels, and I don't remember to do that, but I will.
Yeah, Padre Pio did all the time. Yeah, Padre Pio. Look up Padre Pio and see what he did with the angels. You'll see, and it's very, he utilized the angels in a great, respectful way, and that's what God wants us to do. They're gifts to us. So thanks, Myra. You just made my President's Day.
Thank you, Debbie. You guys too.
Have a blessed day, Myra. Appreciate you listening. And, so many people she mentioned, thank you for the kind words about Take Two, but she mentioned EWTN radio in general. And Debbie, I know so many people are familiar with really one of the most popular shows on the air hosted by Cy Kellett, and that's Catholic Answers Live. I just want to give a heads up that today at 6 Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, they got two very, very interesting hours. How to Read the Bible with Mary Healy. That's in the first hour. Nice. So maybe you've made a Lenten resolution to read more scripture. Well, tune in, 6 p.m. Eastern time on EWTN Radio, How to Read the Bible. And Carlo Broussard, The Whys of Catholic Belief, why we believe some of the things that we do. So 2 hours of Catholic Answers Live a little bit later on today.
That's going to be a great show. Thanks for mentioning that, Jerry. Okay, Frank, you've been waiting so patiently in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, on the iCatholic radio app. Hi, Frank. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
I was listening to the beginning of the program and talk the talk and walk the walk, and I was just thinking to myself, there's a lot of talking the talk and there's a lot of walking the walk, but it's all, a lot of what I see is a lot of misdirection in both. And what I mean by that is probably what a lot of people skip over is the first step, which is reading the seed. And the seed is the Word of God, and it must be a part of you. It must be absorbed in your heart in order to talk the talk. And because I find a lot of people, they will talk the talk, but then it quickly becomes a debate. And then the debate gets heated, and then those two people don't talk anymore. So what I see happening is the more you read the seed, the easier it is for you to reflect on that while you're talking the talk. And then what I do is I walk the walk as well, but I walk it silently. I'm a recovering alcoholic, and when I go to my meetings, I speak all the time, and I speak at meetings. And, I have people coming up to me after, and they're saying, you know what, I really like the way you talk. I love your sharing. And I said, well, why? Well, thank you very much. What part did you like about it? She says, well, the best part of it all, I got a lot out of all of it, but the best part of all is when you say, a lot of people are doing the finger pointing, but if you're going to do finger pointing, make sure your own hands are clean. And she says, also, I like the fact that after you speak, the whole room goes quiet. So I think it's a lot of and through actions, getting it from actions. There is one person that he doesn't say much, but what he does is what I look at, and I try to put myself in those situations. And I find my life just getting easier and easier. And every time I read the Bible, I can't even describe the feeling, and I don't want to lowball the feeling by trying to get words to describe it, because in my mind and my heart there are no words to describe it. It's just a feeling that he's here with me right now. When I'm laying in bed reading the Bible, he's sitting beside me, looking at me, reading the Bible.
Wow!
And it's the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced.
Well, Frank, you've said a lot of very, very profound things here, and I'm reminded of a phrase, if I have this right, it goes something like this. Correct me if I'm wrong, Debbie or Frank. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And how do we care for people? How do we love people? Well, one of the ways is by listening. So yeah, it's important that we have verbal conversations, but I think it's so important, and it's a skill I work on all the time, because people want to be heard, they want to be affirmed, they want to be appreciated, and even if their positions, their philosophies, their beliefs are a little bit off or something, it doesn't mean we just kind of get out that verbal hammer and start hitting them over the head with it. We'd still listen to what they have to say. Oh, that's interesting, and maybe just Debbie, just try and love them into a more accurate maybe belief or position. If you know what I mean. Is that making any sense?
Yeah, it's like you can listen to their words, but you also have to discern and listen to their heart, because there's heart behind those words. They could be saying something but meaning a totally different thing. It depends on where their hurt is coming from.
Right.
Well, Frank, I just don't believe in any accidents. And so if Frank is your birth name, which would be Francis, I presume, then your patron saint, St. Francis of Assisi, you're right in line with that. So I just think, I love how you approach things. When you talked at the beginning about reading scripture and letting it take root in our hearts and in our souls, then it can come out so easily in what we do and what we say. Frank, I think that was just phenomenal. And I was sitting very quiet as you were speaking as well, because what you had to say was very profound. Thank you so very, very much.
Thank you both, and God bless you.
God bless you, Frank. Well, Debbie, a lot of ways people can listen to EWTN radio, and one way that I do it when I am away from my laptop or my gadgets and stuff. Well, it is one of my gadgets, but it's on my phone, the EWTN app, and I know you and I both encourage everyone to download that because it's just, it's a free and easy way to listen to EWTN no matter where you are.
It has so many cool things on the app too as well, which I love. I think the EWTN app is fabulous. Everybody should have it on their phones. And now, can't you just put them on like pretty much every phone? Isn't every phone sort of a smartphone now, Jerry?
Well, pretty much, yeah. Some people still have flip phones or, rotary dial phones, I guess.
The brick phone?
Yeah, right.
Well, I know. I love the EWTN app. Please download it today. Okay, Michelle, in New Hampshire, we're so glad you waited, Michelle. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Earlier in the show, you were talking about, sometimes you don't have to talk to actually speak volumes. One of the examples is my mom is very Catholic. She always has been growing up, but she never really pushed it for her 4 children. So I really didn't become Catholic until I was married and I had a child, and I just really started learning about it then. So now that I'm almost 50, my mom's not in very good health, so she is stuck at home a lot, and I visit her often. A lot of times I'll go at lunchtime, and she could be like sleeping in her chair, but a lot of times when I see her, she'll have her rosary beads in her hand and a crucifix sometimes in another hand, and you can see her lips moving, and she just, to me, looks so peaceful, so like taken care of, like, so to speak, from the good Lord, that I know she's going to be fine, even in her, in her dying days, so to speak, which is what I really feel like she's going through now. But it's beautiful to see. And a lot of times when I see my mom, she doesn't even know that I'm there, or she doesn't know that I see her holding the rosary beads or a crucifix. But it's a blessing. It really is. And it's the most beautiful sight that anyone could really see.
Mm. Would you mind giving us her first name, Michelle, so we can add her to the book of people that we pray for?
Sure. Her name's Celia.
Celia?
Yep.
Okay. Debbie will write that in there. And I'm reminded of my own mother, too, Michelle, who spent the last few years of her life in an assisted living facility. And we would visit her, and yes, sometimes she would be asleep, and she would definitely, she either had her headphones on because she listened to Catholic radio nonstop, or she had a rosary in her hand or something. And I know she prayed multiple rosaries every day. And it's just a beautiful reminder, Michelle and Debbie, that we don't have to be active and vibrant and dynamic and full of energy and full of life and productive and all of this stuff. I mean, look at St. John Paul II. He walked the walk so beautifully at the end of his life when, the world is pushing, euthanasia. Let's check out early. Let's not go through suffering. And look what, St. John Paul II showed us, how to walk the walk. I mean, we learned so much from him, Debbie, probably more than even all of the preaching and the sermons and the encyclicals that he produced in his life.
Very true. Very, very true. Well, Michelle, Celia, your mom is amazing. And I love the way you talk about her, because you just said it's so beautiful to see her just being an example of prayer. And you said the peace, and I'm sure the joy that radiates from that. I just think that is the best example for all of us to want to be drawn into. And it sounds like it worked in your faith life. And maybe, you had to wait till you got children and stuff like that and got a little bit older before you embraced it. But look how you tap back into that. And I think that's awesome of your mom. Yeah, to display it. There's a lot of folks, I will tell you, Michelle, real quickly, there's a lot of folks that generation won't display their prayer rituals and stuff. And that's unfortunate, because it has been said that, when people can see other people praying, like my brothers and sisters never knew that my dad prayed the rosary before he died. And my sister, to this day, she'll say, do you know what? I caught Daddy praying the rosary. and so I said to my father, why didn't you just do this outwardly? But that generation was more reserved. So I just say your mom's an amazing woman.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to share that, and thank you for your show. I absolutely love it.
Oh,
thanks,
God bless
Michelle.
you, Michelle.
Well, we
You're
love
very
you.
kind. 833-288-EWTN. Talk the talk, walk the walk, and the two should align themselves in our lives, good Lord willing. Don, you're going to be up next. Hang in there just for a second. We'll get to Frank, who got in right before you. So, Don, we'll go to you next after Frank in Central California, listening on Sirius XM 130. Hello, Frank. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Oh, guys, how you doing today?
Great, Frank. Thanks for the call.
One thing I like to, well, there's a few points, but in your daily view, I really believe you got to have an intentionally walking in the joy of the Lord, and doing that, you really need to make a daily examination. One thing I like to refer back to is when I used to hear J. Vernon McGee talk. He was so in love with the Lord, he'd really expound on it and turn back to the audience and verbally and say, "Can you say that you love him today?" And if you do that, I mean, you really have to look at yourself and say, "Can I say that I love him without being a liar?" And deep in your heart, you know, and if you instill that, you'll have that joy of the Lord in your life. One other thing that I recall often, too, is what in presenting yourself as a witness to others, Father John Ricardo speaks of speaking the truth to those that need it and not letting an opportunity go by, in the sense that if you have the opportunity and you don't say it, you might just regret that someday, that you never spoke the truth to somebody. As an example, my wife was meeting with some cousins over the weekend, and she mentioned that one of her cousins from down south didn't practice anymore. Although her grandkids, she makes sure that they get to church, but that she doesn't go to church. She doesn't even like to speak of it. But I told her, you know, you really owe it to her to speak up and say something. What if you she turns someday and say, you knew the truth and you didn't tell me? I mean, love is telling them the truth and allowing them to know the salvation message of Jesus Christ.
Right. Yeah, what you're saying is definitely resonating with me, and I'll tell you, Frank, it's reminding me of a passage. I believe it's in the book of Ezekiel. Maybe this will come to your mind, and Debbie, you know this one too, where it talks about if you see someone, living in a sinful way, and I'm paraphrasing badly here, and you refuse to speak out, that person will die, but you will die too. And vice versa, if you do speak, the truth to somebody, and they are converted and turn from their ways, they will be saved, and you will be saved as well. So, what do you think, Deb?
The Washington Ezekiel, I know the passage.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's Ezekiel 33. Yeah.
Well, I would just like to say, I think sometimes
that is the message. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes we get silenced because we want to be accepted. We don't want to make waves. But I think if we lead with kindness and we lead with love and we lead by example and we share the truth, totally just smothered in love. That's what Pope Francis has been saying in his whole pontificate so far, that we will be able to win hearts that way, I think. Sometimes, unfortunately, in this quick world, we say things so fast, the next thing you know, it becomes a heated debate, and that's not a good thing. That's not going to win hearts. So, yeah, I would agree with you, Frank. I think we miss opportunities because we don't want to make waves, and that's unfortunate because we could be helping others. So thank you so much for your contribution today. That was a wonderful call, and we really appreciate you waiting and getting on the show today.
Yeah, and Don in Colorado Springs, we appreciate your patience as well. Don, thanks for calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. What are your thoughts on this topic?
Well,
hi, Don.
No, I'm in mixed situations here. My wife and I were married back in 1981.
we got a divorce in 2004, but we never, it ain't annulled or anything. And through the years, we've been, we see each other every now and then and stuff. And every time when things started getting closer, somebody else came in the picture. So we'd stay away, or I would. And then this past, and I'm a convert. And then after the divorce, I just stayed away from the church because I couldn't believe in the two-face part. So this past year, I went back to church, been there, going with my grandkids and stuff, and then this past couple months ago, she asked me if I would go to this convenience for a community for the church. So we did, and we went for the weekend, and then we started our community. And we pray every night and every morning together over the phone because I work out of town. And then on the weekends we've been together and everything. And then I left home last night. She made my meals and stuff for the week. And then she didn't call me back last night. So I called her. She didn't answer. So then when I was going through the prayers for myself and I was going through the Laudate, and I sent a prayer to her, for our marriage. Well, didn't hear nothing. Well, this morning she didn't call like we normally do. So then I got another prayer and I sent it to her of the marriage and stuff. And then the next thing I got this morning was a text saying, well, if this is all you're praying for, then you might as well just pray by yourself.
Well, okay,
and
so
I don't know if something came in, someone's coming up again or what's going on. And
Don, here we're going to run out of time, but real quickly, and you're welcome to email us as well. Take 2 at EWTN.com, and we could continue the conversation. But real quickly, I just wanted to share something. We're not counselors, but we've lived a long life, Jerry and I would just say that if it were me, just take care of your own faith walk. Just build your faith. Build your prayer regimen, deepen your scripture readings, really get in line with what God's will is, maybe get some spiritual direction, go back to the sacraments if you're Catholic. But please, Don, worry about your faith life. That's the most important thing. And then let God take over with your wife, because sometimes the one thing we cannot do, Don and Jerry, is we can't force anybody else's will. We cannot do that. So,
all right, Don. Yeah, I want to thank you for calling, Don. We'll keep you and your wife in our prayers, absolutely, and everybody else as well. Appreciate all of you joining us. Tony on Facebook said, Jesus said, pray for our enemies. We do, but it's getting harder. It's difficult ignoring their hateful words. Enemies of the church she's talking about. So we'll pray for you in that, Tony. And wanted to mention tomorrow's program. We're gonna ask gentlemen to call in. Guys, this one's for you tomorrow. I came up with this topic. And men, we have a hard time being vulnerable and, sometimes showing our emotions. Has there been a time in your life when things got so challenging, difficult, maybe discouraging, that you were just brought to your knees, emotionally and in your spirit? So we're going to talk about that. Men, have you been brought to your knees? And what was it that brought you to your knees, and how was that experience transformative for you and maybe revolutionized your relationship with God as you opened up more to His grace? So that's tomorrow's topic.
I'm so looking forward to tomorrow's show. Until then, have a beautiful and blessed day. We'll see you real soon.